I suppose when I came here first, obviously when I applied for the job, I didn't even know the school existed because there was a PO box number. And even looking out the windows now, the earliest memories would definitely have been the campus, the size of the complex, the lovely grounds, the setting, the building, the fact that when I walked through the building, all the Gothic arch shapes, so very much the influence of the monastery was very evident in even the structure of the building. And I suppose then just the actual students, the closeness of the students, how tight they were as a group, the smallness of the student population, and then I suppose really what really captured me from the beginning was the shared pride that was very evident at all the school events that you attended, and it was very much everybody went to these events, and by everybody I mean the monks, the parents, the students, the staff, whether it was a match, whether it was an opera, whether it was a choral service, and just a real sense of a love of the place. They would be definitely what would have impressed me most and what is in my memory most when I came here. Most definitely the fact that they lived here, it was very much a home away from home. And again, I would say that what made them very, very different is because they spent such time together 24/7, there was a very, very strong bond, and they regularly referred, and still do, regularly refer to their classmates as like brothers and like a family. So I think very much a tighter strength of friendship amongst them than would be evident in other schools. Most definitely in teaching and learning, I would say that what's fundamental in any school and what's fundamental to make sure that you get excellence in your classroom is the relationships that are formed by the staff with their students, because students will learn best in an environment where they feel cared for. And what I would have noticed from the beginning here is that, again, because of the numbers being smaller and because of the fact that the students are here the whole time, the staff, whether it is the teachers, whether it is the residential staff, the year masters who look after them, whether it is the chaplain, the nurse, etc., they form very close relationships with the students, and so the students are very, very well known by those people, and as a result of that, it's very much helpful in supporting the student in their teaching and learning. The way I would measure the success, and all of us look to, is that the student achieves his number one choice in his CEO. And if that number one choice marries with him achieving what is his, and I stress his, unique potential, that he, in other words, he's done his best, well then that's excellence to me, or that's 10 out of 10. In a school for young developing students, you have to have a balance where they have their classes during the day, they have their downtime with their friends where they can forge and bond and develop their friendships even further. Their recreation, where they're outside and they play in all the various sport facilities, whether it's their sporting or their music events, that they'll have their music rehearsals, orchestra rehearsals, all of that balance where it's not just all work as in academic work, that there's a balance of downtime and recreation as well, gives them I suppose it's very good for their physical well-being, their mental well-being, and of course as well the fact that they live here, they eat here, there's very good food, so they're looked after well both physically and their well-being with the good routine and the balance. So from the academic perspective, the new junior cycle has as one of its key skills in its framework that students must be able to work together. So there's a lot of group work, a lot of project work in the new course that helps them work in teams. But if you look added to that, the extracurricular components, so your sport, your teams, your debating, your music, your orchestras, etc. Boys learn very quickly that the importance of working in a team, but also the skills that are developed in doing that. First of all, you've leadership skills, you've being able to delegate, but also being tolerant, being patient, and being inclusive, because when you're on a team, you learn very quickly that you have to include and be aware of the skills and the weaknesses, the strengths and the weaknesses of all the people on the team. So all of these areas in both academic and in co-curricular help the student be very, very aware of how to work collaboratively moving forward, and that's a huge skill for going to college and of course in their work life. Our overseas students program is something that is growing from strength to strength, and what we have done in recent years is we have 2 designated staff members who look after them. One who links very much with the agents and with the host or with the families, and who's very much in communication with them right throughout the year. But on the ground then, and right through from Monday to right through to the weekend, we have a designated member of staff, an EAL coordinator, who teaches the students extra English classes, so that obviously their fluency is something that needs to be improved whilst they're here. They're coming here predominantly to learn English, and the best way to learn it is obviously through being immersed in an English-speaking context. But also, this teacher looks out for all their pastoral needs. She helps them in organising their schoolwork, etc. So she is hugely supportive and a very positive influence for them, and she's the conduit for both the parents, for the other staff, and for the boys. So they feel very well minded. Added to that, our boys are very, very welcoming to the overseas boys, and so they feel very welcome. I teach a class myself, and I have 2 overseas boys in it, and it's a very small class of 8, but they are very much part of the group. And but I think it's very good for our students. So it's a symbiotic situation in that it's good for the international boys, but it's good for the Irish boys, because we have to remember that our Irish students are going to go into a workplace that's going to be very cosmopolitan, and they are going to work in their careers with cultures from all over the world. So they're learning a lot about other cultures whilst they are here as students in the college. And again, as I said, they're learning to be tolerant of them, to being accepting and inclusive of them. And so there are other skills that our boys are learning here, as are the international students, about our culture. So I think our international students are a huge asset to our school, because they enrich the experience for our boys, and I think we do a good job at enriching their experience. The fact that, like with the situation with the international students, we have first of all a designated coordinator who looks after all of the information and work that is related to the students with extra educational needs. And having a small number, first of all, the most important thing is the communication with the parent as well, who's an educational partner, because very often a student can join your school. It's important, if there's a previous assessment that has been done on the student, that we are made aware of that quickly, so that intervention is key, and timely intervention is key. And that coordinator then works with the other teachers and supervisors to make them aware of the needs of those students, so that you can be aware of that and integrate that into your methodologies in class. And again, I would say it's because we also have supports in the evening, homework support for students who have learning needs, to help them with their organisation, etc. Because some of the learning needs may not just be a weakness in your understanding of the subject, it could be an organisational issue. And so you need to be helped with structure, organising your study, etc., routine and stuff like that. But I suppose in summary, it's the fact that we have a designated coordinator, we have small classes, we have teachers who are aware, and it's again the quick intervention because of the small numbers, and making sure that the parent is very much brought into the conversation. Meditation is something that one of our wellbeing teachers has started to incorporate into a lot of her classes. She's incorporated it into her retreat programs that she's done with the boys. The boys absolutely love it, to the extent that last year we had a 6th year class that came to their wellbeing teacher after the retreat and asked her to do meditation with them before a big game that they were having a few days later. In fact, we did a session with our parents during lockdown, helped them all to de-stress. Well, first of all, the campus. We're very lucky to have this campus here for our teachers available to us, and the monastery have been very generous with us in making the facility available to all teachers. And it's been used in various ways. In previous years, the agricultural science classes would have had a garden project in the wall garden area of the monastery. That has been developed since in 2 areas. One, the TY group last year created a project where they made a prayer path, which has benefited not just our own students, but actually our parents love it. When they come down to visit at the weekends, they use it. The locals from Roscrea have used it all during lockdown, It's a beautiful space in the beautiful setting of the forest, etc. And this year's project for TY is to do a further project in that area, the walled garden. They're going to use the wall, they're making an outdoor classroom in that walled garden area, so it's a beautiful space, and it will lead to further projects where they will have vegetable gardens in there. So that's one area. Also, our guest house is available to us for doing our religious retreats, which is a great facility to have, so close and on the campus. And finally, linked as well to religion and both wellbeing as well, is the recent development of our oratory, which is on campus in the school. And it's a beautiful space which is used by our wellbeing and religion teachers for meditation purposes. We took a school in 2017 that was nearly at a point of closure to a position that we are now in, which I would describe as confident growth. And I say that because right now our numbers are growing. Huge developments have been made in the areas of the various CapEx projects to improve the facilities for the students. So there's a lot of investment also in technology and in the whole area of well-being. I think there are huge challenges for schools out there at the moment with all the societal issues that come into schools on their doorstep. Schools at the end of the day, they're a microcosm of what happens in society. And I think a school like ours is one that can take on those challenges better than others, because the whole area of well-being and mental wellness, I've mentioned earlier the resources that we have in our doorstep. I've mentioned the advantage that we have because we are small numbers, that our staff know our students very well. And I think this is going to be a key area for schools moving forward, much more so than development of academic programs, but the whole program of looking after students' well-being. And I think it will be what will set us apart as a school, because our students are so well looked after, they are so well known. We look after not just their academic needs and their physical needs in sport, etc., but very much their emotional needs. And it's investment in those areas that I think is going to be key and hugely important to make sure that you develop the student as best you can for the future.